Welcome to the chase. You know, we're all running this race. We're all trying to claim victory in it. In my job, I get to sit down with wealthy people all week long. I hear about their wins, I hear about their losses, and quite frankly, like a bartender, I hear about their heartache. And I don't want you to run that type of race, or at least I want you to succeed at the race that you're running, and I want you to succeed at something that matters. Think about it like this. All the while you're chasing after something that's good, God's chasing you with something great. Well, hello, I'm Chris McAlpin, your host for the Chase podcast and managing partner at Sound Financial. And on the Chase, our goal is to educate on what does the Bible say about money. Because we find truth, we find peace, we find stability, we find crazy success instructions in God's word. And I know firsthand how our society screws up money. I mean, goodness gracious, I've been around this industry since the mid-90s. So I've seen a few ups and downs in that period of time. And I've seen the craziness of ambition in our society. I've seen the fear of failure in our society, the anxiety, the scarcity mentality, the way that the media has changed our views on money in that period of time, the way that our entertainment changes our views on money in that time. Because look, in America, we are super wealthy. I mean, we know how to grow money out of thin air. We are really one of the most creative, successful empires in the history of the world. And our problem is that we've become slaves to this wealth. And it looks something like this, that we're sucked into this ambition and we're sucked into this drive to make more money, or we are sucked into this fear or this anxiety or this scarcity mentality because we see so much wealth around us, and we look at that wealth and we go, well, I'm not that wealthy, and so therefore I must be poor, and therefore I must be near destitute. There's also this element that many of us are just a generation or two removed from destitution. And in our DNA, we remember this. We were raised with that mentality. And in all of these cases, whether it's our current society today, the traditions that we've been taught, whether it's in a church or whether it's in family, we start to gather this view. We start to form this view of wealth. We start to form this view of money. And it is a worldly view. It is not a biblical view. And so our goal is on this show is to teach a biblical view. It's not crafted. It's not created. It's not Chris's opinion. It is, what does the Bible say about money? And yet it's at the same time, we want to take the excellence, the creativity, the ambition, the drive, the success stories that we see in the American financial universe and take the best out of it. Because listen, God is extremely ambitious. He is the author of excellence. Creativity was his idea first. And our wealth, our blessings, those are our money, our resources, our opportunity. These are blessings that he has given us so that we should use them to glorify him, to be generous with that wealth, to enjoy that wealth, and to invest that wealth for the future. So that's what this show's about. And this time I'm going to combine it with our client update. But, for this moment, I want you to do this for me. If you like our shows, I want you to give us a thumbs up, like us, subscribe to Sound Financial's YouTube channel, or search for us wherever you podcast and follow us. We appreciate that. So for this show, I am combining our Sound Financial June client update with the Chase episode. And I'm doing this because of so much that's going on in the economy, so much that's going on in the markets. We need to talk about the same stuff. everybody kind of needs to hear some of the same stuff. I'm getting a lot of the same questions. Okay. What is inflation? What is a recession? Chris, what will it be like if I go through a recession at this stage of my life? And I think we're getting a lot of these questions in large part because it's been so long since we've had these things. And there's some reason for that. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And so if you think about it, inflation, it's been over 40 years. A deep recession, a genuine, a true recession, it's been 14 years. So some of our listeners, you weren't adults, okay? Some of us that are adults were kids the last time that inflation was around, and we were in a completely different stage of life the last time a recession hit. And so for this show today, I'm going to go through a cartoon. And I'm going to do it the only way a businessman knows how, and that is with a PowerPoint, because of course I'm not a drawer. So let's do this. Let's share the screen. So here we go. What is going on in the world? Let's just walk through this and talk a few minutes about what is inflation? Why do we have it? What is the Federal Reserve doing? And how are we responding? And that particular piece is for our clients and listeners. So what is inflation and why we have it? So think about this. You've got 100 sellers selling 100 widgets. And you have 100 buyers buying 100 widgets. And this is our economy. This is the markets. This is the open square marketplace where people are auctioning their goods and services. And interestingly enough, our economy works like an open auction. And if you have 100 sellers and 100 buyers, you're going to have price equilibrium. And now that's a fancy word. You'll never have to use it again. But let's think about that price equilibrium is the buyers and the sellers find a space where they agree on a price, and that price is $1. And the economy, stock markets, bond markets work exactly the same way. When you go and you shop for a new car, you buy a house, you buy a shirt off the rack, you buy food at the grocery store, you are participating as a buyer. And when you go to work, you're participating as a seller. Everybody participates in the economy, and money is the fuel. It's what's moving through the economy. And in this case, 100 buyers of 100 widgets that are 100 sellers, we're going to have a price of $1. All right. So what happened? Well, we all know what happened. There was a pandemic a couple of years ago, and everybody got sent home, and our government pushed trillions of dollars, over $5 trillion into the economy in the year 2020, all in 1 year, actually in just a few months. And not only that, in the last 14 years, the Federal Reserve has been pushing more money into the economy, creating this growth engine, or fueling this growth engine coming out of the Great Recession in 08 and 09. And then the European Union had some of the same issues in 10, 11, and 12. And so we have this globalization of the economy, and trillions of dollars have been pushed into it. Well, if money is the fuel of the economy, if it acts as an ignition for the economy, because that is what the Federal Reserve uses to grow it, okay, then you still have 100 sellers, but now you have 200 buyers of those widgets. And because the economy works similar to an auction, now your price is $2. So it's gone from $1 to $2. Now you're starting to feel inflation. Okay. So during the pandemic, though, everybody got sent home from work. You had supply chain disruptions all over the world, and you no longer had 100 sellers, but you had 50 sellers to 200 buyers. And now the price of a widget is $4. That, my friends, is inflation. You see, the economy works in very commonsensical ways when you look at one or two pieces. Okay. The challenge is there's millions of moving parts of the economy. So I'm not going to pretend that it always works like common sense. But buyers, sellers, money as the fuel, have inflation in our economy today. You feel it every time you fill up your car with gas, every time you go to the grocery store, every time you try to shop online and you can't get what you're trying to order. That's because of inflation and supply chain disruptions. So, more buyers than sellers, and the buyers had a lot of money. That's what's inflation. And what is the Federal Reserve doing? Well, here we go. All right. The Federal Reserve, as I said a minute ago, has pushed trillions of dollars into the economy in the last 14 years. This has acted like fuel of the economy. It also causes this type of manipulation effect in the markets. So we have not had these drastic sell-offs. And when we did, you had what the industry knows as the plunge protection team, and you get these V-shaped markets and these V-shaped economies. That is not normal. Historically, you have these stair-step effect down. You have this kind of a U-shaped and this growth out of it. So the Federal Reserve is stepping its way out of the economy to slow inflation down, and it's taking money out of the economy. It is doing that by raising interest rates. They're making the price of money more expensive. Now, this affects you depending on where you are in life. If you're looking to go buy a house and you go borrow money to do it, in the next year or two, it's going to be more expensive. It already is more expensive now than it was a few months ago. Okay. If you're retired and you have a relatively conservative portfolio made up of bonds, it's making the price of bonds go down. And that's why for our clients, many of you that are retired, you've seen a big disruption in your otherwise conservative investment portfolios. The price of those bonds have gone down. And that's been painful because we haven't gone through a bond market like this one in over 40 years. Okay. So think of this as a season in time that the Federal Reserve must walk all the way through. In fact, I'm on record a couple of months ago when I interviewed Clinton, we talked about this. Clinton Sorensen, one of our investment leaders at Sound, he and I talked about the Federal Reserve raising interest rates and what it was going to do to the economy because raising interest rates into a slowing economy. And the concern is now they're going to push the economy into a recession. Now, I'm not going to jump into a recession and what is a recession in this particular episode. I'm going to do that in the next episode coming in a couple of weeks. So look up that, okay? So the Federal Reserve is taking money out by raising interest rates. That's pushing bond prices down. But we believe that this is just a season in time, that the bond market's going to turn around. So let's talk about how Sound's responding in our investment models for our clients. Well, number one, bonds. We believe that bonds are going to turn around. In fact, at the recording of this near the end of May, we're already starting to see a solid bottom in the bond market, and it looks to be turning around. This is exciting because the U.S. Treasury bonds, especially, are considered by the industry as some of the most conservative and secure investments in the entire world. And we're starting to see that those have found a solid place to grow out of. I believe that we'll see those turn around throughout the rest of 2022. Okay. Stocks for our clients. Talked earlier about a tale of two cities. I actually started an article and started one of our podcasts, I believe, with that title. And that we said we didn't know what version we're going to get. We knew we would get a sell-off in the big growth names, but we didn't know what we would get in the strong value names. We're starting to see in the month of May that those value names have rolled over. They're starting to sell off also. And so on June 1st, for many of our clients, for many of our portfolios, we're going to start taking conservative steps in our stock portfolio. So we've already taken one conservative step in bonds on February 1st. We took a conservative step in more aggressive portfolios on April 1st. Now we're going to start rotating out of some of the stocks that are selling off. We want to build up that cash because we do believe that later on in the year, early next year, we could see some really good buying opportunities. So just with these two alone, I think we're going to have some good opportunities in bonds. We're going to see a turnaround, and we're going to get very defensive in stocks. Okay. Number three, commodities. Been a strange story this year because commodities like your grocery types of goods have done very well because of the Russian-Ukraine war. But gold has actually come down since February, March. Gold is typically an inflation safe haven. In fact, it is the number one thing that you're taught in investment school or B school that you run to gold during times of high inflation. Well, it's actually lost money this year. So it's been a very weird year in that where do you go if you're conservative? If bonds are going down and gold is going down, it's kind of tough on investment portfolios. Keep in mind, those strange times don't last long in the investment world. Things start to equal out and balance out. So we believe that there will be a point that certain commodities investments could be very good. Now, listen, this is a recording and this is going out to the public, and this is not an invitation to buy or sell any of this investment, any of these investment positions. And I'm not giving you advice via camera here, okay? But we like and we will be looking for a place to step into some commodities positions. So how do I think about times like this? And my mind runs to some of my favorite verses. Deuteronomy 8 is one of those chapters in the Bible. It says this: "For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with brooks, streams, and deep springs gushing out of the valleys and the hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil, and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce, and you will lack nothing." God promises his people, trust me, and you will lack nothing. And yet there are times that we are afraid. There are times that I'm afraid. I look at our clients' accounts, look at the markets. I've said this many times that I learned how to sleep a long time ago when the markets were down. It's clients, it's people that I get fearful for. And that's me lacking trust in God as well. That's me lacking to stop not remembering, what I teach a lot. Okay. There's times this week I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, heck, I might as well get up and do some writing, do some reading, because I'm not going back to sleep. I'm looking at the markets going, gosh, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, as if I'm in control, right? There's times we lose wealth. We think we will run out of money, and therefore we think we're going to be destitute. And you know what? That can't happen. It could happen that the stock markets go to zero, that all these, U.S. Treasury bonds and these big blue chip U.S. stocks that we're holding in our portfolios, only like big solid names. Yeah, could they go to zero? Yeah, they could. Super highly unlikely. Like, if it is, we're all farmers again anyway. I mean, it's like very, very unlikely. So we should take a step back, look at our investments, look at the investment world and go, you know what? This is actually kind of normal. And we're holding high quality stuff. In markets and economies, they cycle. Think about this: success ebbs and flows. A child grows to an adult in fits and spurts. Plants, crops, they live, they grow, they die, they cycle through that process. Our seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, cycle through these ups and downs process. Why would we think that the economies and the markets are any different? We just want them to be different. We want them to go up all the time. That's just not normal. Nothing in the world works where it goes up all the time. So why are we surprised when things cycle? I believe that God designed this cycle to draw us back to him. It's in times like this, we should be reminded, don't trust your money, trust God. See, God's saying in this verse, he is saying, I gave you the resources, the opportunities, I gave you the wisdom, the work ethic to grow your wealth. Stop trusting your wealth and trust me. By the way, he's saying the same thing to Chris McAlpin here. He tells me that often. He says, trust me and you'll lack nothing. How cool is that? And these ebbs and flows, these ups and downs should remind us of it. So 2022, listen, it could be a tough year in the markets. As we said, we believe the bond market, the tough part of the year for the bond market's over. We're going to see a tough year in stocks. We're going to work hard to be defensive, okay? You're going to see a lot more trades. Sound clients, you're going to see a lot more trades than you normally do because we're going to work hard to be defensive. We're not guessing at the direction of the markets. We don't have a crystal ball, okay? You're going to get our absolute best efforts. We appreciate the trust that you put in us. And listen, remember this, though. Put your trust in God. Don't trust money. All while you're chasing something good. God's chasing you with something great. Take care. God bless.
For disclosure and citation information, please go to www.soundfsg.com/disclosures.